Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and what is cracking with you guys? My God, has it been a fantastic few weeks here. With 7.3 looming, we know the PvP season's ending. It's probably coming extremely soon. I thought it was worth looking because people are asking, is there anything I need to get done now, Preacher, before 7.3 lands? So I think that's a worthwhile topic of conversation to go through. As you know, 7.3 is... it's bringing some new stuff, but it's basically an enhanced Broken Shore with a better story. But they are time-gating it, so that's classic Blizzard at this point. Love it or hate it, they are going to thin that story out. It's a great story. The setting is fantastic. It's the campaign we all wished would have been in the Broken Shore. But the Broken Shore does exist, so if this was like... the content that was coming instead of... if the Broken Shore didn't exist and we saw what was on Argus, I'd be mind blown by the content that's coming there. But the Broken Shore does exist. So what we're actually seeing is a slightly enhanced version of that. They've looked at what worked on the Broken Shore, what didn't work. So the Sentinel Axe is gone, replaced with like these invasion portals, which are more reliable, I suppose. I mean, you get to queue with random people to get them done, which is always nice. Instead of trying to farm groups and have it all phased out, and it'd be nowhere near as interesting as you showed us in the Alpha, Blizzard, goddamn. So it looks like it's going to be better than the Broken Shore, but I certainly wouldn't expect your mind to be blown by any means. I wouldn't expect that to happen. But what I will say is we're getting a new dungeon, which is nice. It's a decent enough dungeon. It's not, like, amazing. It's not Karazhan, but it's all right. It's pretty good. And we're also getting a new raid, which will come at some point. They're going to do what they've done classically now, which is release the raid much later. So with that being said, what's the big thing that's coming that we need to be aware of? And of course, it's the Netherlight Crucible. I'm sure you've heard of it right now. But if you haven't, it's basically the dual relic system that we saw. They were trying to introduce in 7.2, where our relics would have 2 traits. It's a good idea, really. It means that we can be a little bit more flexible on relics. We're not trying to farm one particular one. I did agree with what Watcher said recently in an interview, which was like, look... we don't expect to... what we can't do is just put the best relics in every raid, right? So it's the same relic over and over again. So what they could do now is actually vary it up to the point where you can get a relic that's really high item level. It might not have a really good trait and run into all those kind of issues. And maybe even get your best trait from the Netherlight Crucible, as you get to pick what your second trait will be from a selection of 3 of them. So that's the big thing that's coming. Now, it's tied to your concordance level, like how much concordance... how many concordance levels you have in your weapon. So that probably means to some of you, it's like, oh god, have I got to farm AP, blah, 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 blah. But you don't. They're actually increasing the artifact knowledge level as well. So I'm not concerned whatsoever about farming AP right now, because the artifact knowledge level is dramatically increasing, and it's going to be automatic as well. We're not researching notes anymore. It's just going to go up, which means that you're just going to get a huge, huge bonus to the amount of artifact power you're going to be gaining. Therefore, what you're getting now is kind of like scraps. It will help in some respect to push you that little bit further ahead, sure, but it's not going to be close compared to the kind of artifact power you're going to be gaining once 7.3 actually lands, so I wouldn't worry about that too much either. Netherlight Crucible is going to be important, particularly if you have a main character that's involved in some sort of main character level progression, but for everyone else, it's not that big of a deal. The extra traits are going to be important, sure, but it's going to be a case of just let the artifact knowledge rise and get it relatively quickly, like most of you have done in your alts recently. So that does bring us to alts, which means with 7.3 not having that much preparation specifically for it, what I've been doing is actually looking at it a different way, and I am back in love with World of Warcraft more than I have been in the entirety of Legion. A big part of that has been doing the dailies, but more importantly, it's sort of rekindled my passion for playing all different types of classes and specs, and this period of time, at least in my case, and I'm sure in the case of many others who have reached Concordance 1 at least, has opened up the door to play many alts, because there's not much point in grinding the shit out of Concordance right now, and that's even less relevant when 7.3 lands. So using that time effectively to play whatever the hell I want has really freshened everything up. And I recommend you use this time the same way. I truly do. Is use this free opportunity before 7.3 lands, and you're kind of going to be tempted to go back onto your main and get those relics unlocked. Use this free time effectively rather than trying to grind the scraps of AP that might help you out for a day or two or something like that, right? So with that being said, I've set myself a lot of personal goals, and a lot of people ask this about WoW. It's like, I don't know what I should be doing in WoW. Like, how do you keep it fresh? And the point is, if you just have some sort of lofty, sort of not really clear goals, or a clear goal that's not really just involving yourself. So that might be something like, I want to get a higher PvP rating, I want to clear a mythic raid, right? I mean, that's an overall goal, it's a noble one for sure, but it's not really something you can actively be working towards all the time without just grinding and grinding and playing the RNG lottery in, say, Mythic Plus or something like that. It's something that happens with a whole bunch of other people, and you need something to be doing outside of that, otherwise you're just going to get bored. If you're just sat waiting to raid or waiting for your arena partners to log on or whatever it might be, that's not going to work out too well for you in any way. So what I've done is, what I recommend everybody does is set themselves some personal goals. That might be to cap every character. For me, it's to get all the mage towers done for every single spec. We're currently 12 through. We're about a third, well, we're a third of the way through, and it's been a lot of fun, and focusing on that has allowed me to individually focus on certain characters, which has been hugely fun. So recently it's been like, okay, Mage Tower's coming up, what do I want to work on? Well, I kind of want to work on Paladin, Monk, and Priest, and get those 3 out of the way. That's going to be another, 3, 6, that's another 9 specs out of the way. Then we're probably going to look at Rogue, and Shaman, and Warlock, and Warrior. We've done Druid, we've done Demon Hunter, we've done Death Knight, we've done Mage, and then work on those individually. So it's given me these focuses per character, and it's like, okay, what state is this character in? What can I do to get it going on? Now, a regular comment, obviously, on the dailies is like, all your characters are super geared. How are you doing that? Well, it's not by being carried. In fact, it's pretty common knowledge that anytime I feel I'm being carried, I actually don't really want to play. I don't like it at all. It actually really pisses me off because I'm dead against being carried. It's not fun, and you don't get any sense of accomplishment out of it by just being like, well, I could not be here, and that sucks. But what it has reaffirmed is, with Kill Jaden coming out, I was like, oh, okay, well, in the LFR, I was like, okay, I can go check out LFR. And it's reaffirmed just how colossally a waste of time LFR is. And I think it needs reminding for some people who might forget just how inefficient and how useless LFR is in order to progress your character. It's really bad. Particularly if you're doing it for the quest, which might reward Raid Finder gear. I mean, it's a guaranteed item, but it's typically pretty terrible. It can Titan Forge quite high. You can get those lucky odd moments, but typically speaking, with queue times and actually getting them done, because of course Blizzard has reworked LFR, as you probably are aware, so they're not interested in it being tourist mode anymore. They've kind of fucking decided that was just a bad idea, and now what they're doing is putting in 1 or 2 difficult mechanics. Well, that is not proving too well with the community right now. They've got some adjusting to do in order to make sure that they're actually getting the LFR done. It's an interesting maneuver by Blizzard. I'm going to see how it plays out. I think they might buckle under the pressure a little bit at some point and be like, okay, we really need to ease up on this stuff. Typically, that's what's happened when they've put bosses in that have required lots of determination. I mean, I've done some Kill Jaden LFRs recently, checking it out, and I've healed one with 7 determination. I came in at 5, and I was like, oh shit, and I didn't realize I had to do this much healing in LFR ever in my entire life. I've DPS'd it, and I've been like, we're getting to like 6 stacks. A lot of trouble there. Seeing Fallen Avatar, which is just a DPS check at this point, be not met repeatedly. I've been in several runs who've only managed to get it to like 20% by the time the entire floor's gone, with the average DPS in some of those being like 200k. So, again, I'm not bashing LFR, but Blizzard's change of stance on it means that not only are you queuing for a long time, but you're potentially going to be in there for a long time as well, certainly towards the latter end of it. In terms of gearing, I actually spend very little time on the alts, but I use my time efficiently. I think that's something that really needs to be used by many members of the community, is to try and use your time efficiently. So I am fortunate enough, though, I'm not going to lie, I'm fortunate enough to organize normal tomb runs, but I always have my characters prepared to do that. It's not a case of I just go in with like grey gear and come out swimming in swag. That's not the case. The characters are always appropriately ready to do that, and if they're not, I work on them until they are, and there's plenty of evidence out there that I do that. So yes, I can get in normal runs. The other thing that is definitely worthwhile doing, and I do, as you've probably seen from the dailies, I don't do this with viewers, right? So it's not some sort of weird advantage that I have. Is doing at least 1 Mythic Plus per alt that you're interested in per week, even if that Mythic Plus is not really the appropriate one to do. And I think this is where people struggle. I don't use Mythic Plus to gear up particularly if I can get into a decent one. So for a lot of my characters, like a 15 is the ideal they want to be, and I have other characters where they're appropriately geared for like a 10. knowing your limits is a very important thing. And it's something you'll often find me saying is like, okay, this character really should be doing a 10. As I said, I don't like being carried. And trying to get into 10 runs and stuff like that. What I'm actually after in a lot of cases, especially as it comes towards the end of the week, is just making sure I get that champion's bounty at the end of the week, even if it's not the ideal one I want. And the reason for that is we kind of know, despite Blizzard not confirming it, but science has kind of pointed the way that the champion's bounty at the end of the week is absolutely the best source of bad luck protection in the game. So if you're after Legos, doing 1 Mythic Plus and getting a champion's bounty is a really good idea, because that's going to bump it up. Whatever the magic number is, it seems to bump it up pretty goddamn significantly. And when you do that, you're just pushing that character forward with very little time invested. Right? You're doing 1 dungeon run, even if you're doing something simple. So although my characters might be geared for a 10 or a 15, some weeks I'll just do a 7 or a 6 or something that I can get into quickly, because I'm not after the gear out of the dungeon. What I'm after is just make sure I get the champion's bounty at the end. And if I get that, then I'm going to be happy. I'm more than happy to have that, even if I don't happen to get some 930 item at the end of the week. That's totally fine with me. And that's something that I recommend to all of you to get done. Another thing that I've been doing is using this time before 7.3 to try, as God will let me, as much as I possibly can, to get all my followers on every character up until the titled level. Now, the reason I'm doing that is there's no doubt going to be extra follower missions and stuff coming in 7.3, and having all that done and dusted, one, significantly reduces the amount of order resource baggage you have to carry around with alts, particularly if you've got a lot of alts. It cuts it down hugely, because you're only sending out guys on missions you actually want to do, instead of doing every possible mission to get items. So obviously I want to get item level 900 on every character, and all that kind of stuff. And you can boost this in 7.3 with the gearing, that's why I didn't mention it. And getting all that done as much as possible, purely so that I don't have to bother with it in the future, or I have them all prepared to do as quickly as possible. Now, having your characters all able to just go and do whatever mission you want dramatically improves your quality of life, because what you're able to do is just pick out the missions you want to do. So that might be AP, just doing AP missions, just doing Legion Fall War Supplies, just doing Bloods of Sargeras, if that's what you're after, or gold even. The amount of gold you can get if you can get your characters to titled, and they're pretty much guaranteeing 200% on every mission, is huge. It's thousands and thousands of gold every week that's coming in from there. So that's what I'm working on in the background. And you could do this through the app. You don't even need to be online, which is the best thing about it, is try for just every day at some point just to send the guys out doing something, just having that XP just ticking up all the time. And what I'm seeing now is the benefits of that. I'm seeing lots of characters hit titled with a couple of followers, and then a couple more are hitting them every few days. And gear is starting to become less of an issue. More of them are hitting 900, so I don't care about that. And what I'm finding now is that I don't care about order resources so much. As a slight note to that then, order resources are a pain in the ass. You can translate them, obviously, from your mains and your class all, if you don't know about that. You can do that, but you lose a lot of resources doing it as well. It's like a resource sink more than anything. It's not overly helpful. What I found is something probably lots of you have been doing since the beginning of the expansion, is just setting one of the guys to be a combat ally. Anybody will do. And then sticking on them anything that gives order resources when you do a world quest. So you can have 3 slots, obviously, if they hit titled, which means you can have the one that gives 100 order resources, and the one that gives 50 order resources, and the one that gives 25. And that means that every time you do a world quest, you're getting 175 resources minimum. So a quick sweep of the Broken Shore every few days, what that allows you to do is something that takes about 10 to 15 minutes max. Will reward you if there's like 8 or 9 missions up with well over like like 2,000 order resources. Well, more than enough to last you a week or longer, especially if you can get order resources in those quests themselves. Like some of those quests give 700 on their own. You're adding like 200 onto that each time. You very quickly get that solved, and you never have to worry about it again. Again, a great way of just passively looking after yourself by doing content that you ordinarily would do anyway. So that's what I'm doing in preparation for 7.3. That's how I'm passing my time. I truly recommend you guys set yourselves some goals. I think there's a lot of people who are lost who's like, well, I'm just kind of focused on raiding right now. Well, you can be focused on raiding, and that's fine, but you have to wait for the raid to get anything done. And if your mission right now is just to try and get Titanforge stuff, I don't know, man. Each to their own, for sure. Each to their own. But for me, that's not an efficient use of your time. And I want people to use their time efficiently so they can get the most out of their playtime, most bang for their buck. So I hope that helps you out with what I'm doing for 7.3. I'd love to see some of your goals. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, guys.